Let me tell y'all something. Sometimes life throws a headline at you so wild, you got to sit down for a minute and say, hold up, what did I just hear? India, near Turkey's coast. Now that sounds like somebody mixed up the map, right? But listen, this ain't about geography, it's about destiny. See, life will make people look at you and say, you don't belong there. They'll tell you, you can't be successful in that space. They'll say, you're too far from where greatness happens. But sometimes God will move you so close to success, people start questioning the map. India near Turkey's coast ain't about land, it's about mindset. It's about rising so high that folks can't understand how you got there. It's when you make your growth doesn't fit their imagination. You ever been to so blessed people start thinking something's wrong with the system? That's the level I'm talking about. People think progress is supposed to make sense. It don't. Progress is supposed to shake people up. Success never fits into neat little boxes. When you're truly chasing your vision, it'll feel like continents are colliding. You'll be where nobody expected you to be, doing what nobody thought you could do. And here's the thing, everybody wants to get to that coast, that peaceful place, that moment where everything connects. But you don't just arrive there, you fight your way there. You keep pushing, keep hustling, keep believing. You swim through storms that were never meant to let you live. And then one day you look up and realize you're standing somewhere no one believed you could reach. When the world looks at you and says, how did you end up there? You just smile. You just smile and say, because I didn't stop. That's the secret right there. You don't need to fit the map. When you're driven by purpose, you redraw it. So if somebody today is looking at your life trying to figure out how you got where you are, let them be confused. Because every time you break an expectation, you prove a possibility. India near Turkey's coast. Maybe not on a globe, but in the spirit of hustle, in the fire of ambition, in the rhythm of greatness, it's possible. And that's what makes life beautiful. Greatness often puts you in places people never imagined you'd reach, because that's exactly what greatness does. It surprises people. When you start out, folks see you based on where you are, not where you're going. They measure your potential by your surroundings, your circumstances, your background. But greatness doesn't care about your starting line. It cares about your drive, your hunger, your willingness to keep moving even when nobody's clapping for you. Every successful person you've ever heard of started somewhere ordinary. What separated them wasn't luck. It was the decision to not stay where they started. When you carry that kind of determination, life begins to open doors that others didn't even know existed. People will look up and see you standing somewhere they never thought you'd be, doing things they didn't believe you could do, and they'll wonder how you got there. The truth is, you didn't wait for permission. You worked when it was dark. You believed when it was quiet, and you kept going when others stopped. When you start elevating, the world gets confused because people like to keep others in familiar categories. They're comfortable seeing you in one place, one job, one dream. But greatness doesn't stay in a box. It breaks through boundaries and shows up in unexpected spaces. It's like watching a seed grow through concrete. It's not supposed to happen, but it does because the power inside is greater than the pressure outside. That's what greatness feels like. You might be from a small town, from humble beginnings, from a situation where no one expected much. But if you keep your focus locked on growth, you'll find yourself in rooms that used to feel impossible. You'll start to attract opportunities that seem too big for where you came from, but just right for who you're becoming. People will try to explain your success in every way except hard work. They'll call it luck, timing, or coincidence, because it's easier for them to believe in chance than in change. But you'll know the truth. You earned it. You fought for it. You showed up when others quit. You stayed committed when it wasn't convenient. That's what greatness does. It rewrites people's expectations and forces them to see that where you start never determines how far you can go. Success isn't about location. It's about mindset and perseverance. Because your surroundings don't define your destiny, your decisions do. Some people believe they can't win because they're not in the right place or don't have the right connections. But the truth is, you can bloom anywhere if your roots are strong enough. The environment doesn't make the dreamer does. You can be in the smallest corner of the world and still build something that reaches across oceans if your mind refuses to settle for less. It's not about being in a rich city, having a fancy degree, or knowing powerful people. It's about waking up every day and saying, I'm going to push a little harder, think a little bigger, and believe a little stronger. That's what separates the dreamers who talk from the doers who act. When your mindset is right, you start seeing opportunity where others see obstacles. You stop blaming what you don't have and start working with what you do. You stop waiting for perfect timing because you realize success doesn't wait. It rewards the ones who move. Perseverance is what bridges the gap between intention and impact. You can have all the talent in the world, but if you give up when things get rough, you'll never find out how great you could have been. The people who make it aren't the ones who had it easy. They're the ones who refuse to stop climbing, even when the path got steep. Your location might limit your options, but your mindset can create new ones. There are people living in the middle of chaos who still build peace. People surrounded by doubt who still choose faith. People with nothing but a dream who still find a way to win. Success doesn't come to those waiting for better circumstances. It comes to those determined to make the best of their circumstances. You can change your life without changing your address because transformation starts in your mind long before it shows in your life. The moment you decide that where you are is not where you'll stay, that's when everything begins to shift. The power isn't out there somewhere. It's within you. And once you activate it, no location on this planet can hold you back. When your growth doesn't fit the map, it means you're breaking limits because real progress never follows the route that others expect. People like things to stay predictable, to move in straight lines and familiar patterns, but success doesn't travel that way. Growth is messy, uncomfortable, and often confusing to those watching from the sidelines. The moment you start to rise, you'll notice that people begin to question you, not because you're wrong, but because they can't recognize what it looks like to evolve beyond their imagination. When you outgrow environments that once felt safe, that's a sign you're doing something right. You're not supposed to stay where everyone understands you. You're supposed to keep moving until your vision outpaces their opinions. Breaking limits means you stop accepting what's normal as the final destination. You start setting new standards, not just for yourself, but for everyone who thought it couldn't be done. The path to growth is not mapped out because no one has walked your exact road before. You are creating new directions with every bold step you take. That's why people will tell you to slow down, to play it safe, to stay where it's comfortable. But the ones who change the world are never the ones who follow the old instructions. They're the ones who see a mountain where others saw a wall and decide to climb anyway. Every time you choose growth, you challenge limits that others accepted as permanent. You start learning that limits are only real for those who stop testing them. The moment you believe you can go further, that belief rewrites the rules. You start to realize that there's no set route to greatness. There's only persistence, faith, and courage. The people who said it couldn't be done will have no choice but to watch as you build something they couldn't even picture. Growth doesn't fit them because the map was made by people who stopped moving. When you refuse to stop, you draw a new one. And when that happens, you don't just rise for yourself. You rise for everyone who's ever been told they can't. You become the proof that limits are just starting points for those who dare to keep going. Progress will always confuse those who never believed in your journey because when you start turning your vision into reality, it forces people to question their own choices. The same individuals who once doubted you will look at your growth and try to figure out how it happened so fast. They'll call it luck. They'll say you changed. They'll try to make sense of something they never took the time to understand. What they don't see are the nights you spent working while they were sleeping, the sacrifices you made when no one was watching, the pain you turned into discipline. Progress doesn't announce itself. It builds quietly, then shows up so loudly that it shocks everyone who never thought you'd make it. When people don't believe in your journey, it's not really about you. It's about them. It's about the limits they place on themselves and the reflection of their own fear. When they see you doing what they couldn't do, it makes them uncomfortable because it reminds them of the dreams they gave up on. But your growth isn't meant to make others comfortable. It's meant to inspire those who are ready to believe again. Some people will never clap for you because they're too busy comparing paths, but you don't need their applause. Progress speaks for itself even when the crowd stays silent. The confusion your success causes is actually a sign that you're doing something extraordinary. You're stepping outside the lines that everyone else agreed to stay within. When your results don't match their expectations, it's because you stopped listening to their doubts and started following your calling. Progress doesn't always look impressive while it's happening. It looks lonely, messy, and uncertain. But when it finally shows, it makes people wonder how you did it without them noticing. That's because true growth happens inside first, long before it appears outside. You'll notice that the same people who questioned your decisions will one day ask for your advice. The same ones who said it wouldn't work will want to know your secret. That's what progress does. It shifts perception. It forces those who never believed to face the reality that belief wasn't required for you to succeed. You didn't need their validation. You just needed to keep moving, even when they couldn't see the destination. You don't need to fit into the world's plan. You can redraw it with purpose, because the world will always try to hand you a script it thinks you should follow. From the time you're young, people start telling you what's realistic, what's practical, what's possible. They want you to stay within the lines because that's what feels safe to them. But greatness doesn't live inside anyone's comfort zone. The people who make history are the ones who refuse to let others define what was achievable. They didn't fit the mold. They broke it and built something new out of the pieces. When you live with purpose, you stop chasing permission and start creating your own direction. Every person has a unique path that can't be compared to anyone else's. What works for the world might not work for you, and that's okay. The moment you understand that your journey doesn't need validation, you free yourself from the limits others placed on you. You start realizing that purpose is stronger than approval. The world's plan is designed for average results, but purpose is what leads to extraordinary ones. It's what gives you the courage to take risks when everything tells you not to. It's what pushes you to keep going when logic says to stop. Purpose is louder than doubt, and once you start following it, you'll never want to go back to fitting in. When you decide to redraw the plan, people might call you unrealistic. They'll say you're dreaming too big, aiming too high, moving too fast. But that's because they can't see the vision that was given to you. They don't know the fire that keeps you awake at night, the voice that keeps reminding you there's more for you out there. Every visionary looked crazy until their vision worked. Redrawing the world's plan doesn't mean disrespecting it. It means upgrading it with your own purpose. It means believing there's a higher version of what already exists and daring to bring it to life. You don't have to live your life according to a path someone else designed. You have the power to shift the narrative, to take what the world gave you and rewrite it with meaning. Purpose isn't about following directions. It's about creating destinations that didn't exist before. Every time you defy expectations, you create a new possibility for others, because your courage to go first opens doors for people who never believed they could walk through them. When you choose to rise above limits, you become living proof that those limits were never real. People watch your journey, even the ones who don't say a word. They see you taking risks, facing fear, and still standing tall. And something in them begins to shift. They start to think, if you can do it, maybe they can too. That's the power of example. It spreads belief. Every act of bravery sends a ripple through the world, touching hearts you'll never even meet. You might not realize it, but your fight, your persistence, and your faith can become someone else's inspiration. Defying expectations means you stop letting the world decide what's possible for you. You stop accepting the limits that were handed down by fear, doubt, or tradition. You start moving with faith that your purpose is bigger than what people can understand. The ones who doubt you are not your enemies. They're just stuck in their own disbelief. When they see you breaking through barriers, it forces them to confront the idea that maybe they've been living smaller than they need to. That's why your success is not just about you. It's about what it awakens in others. You're showing them that there's more to life than following the crowd or settling for less. Every trailblazer pays a price for being different. You'll be misunderstood, criticized, and questioned, but those reactions are proof that you're moving ahead of the pattern. When you walk a path that hasn't been walked before, there's no map to follow. But that's what makes it powerful. The people who come after you won't have to face the same uncertainty because you already cleared a way. Every step you take becomes a blueprint for someone else's dream. You become the evidence that faith works. That hustle matters. That persistence pays off. Your story becomes a mirror for others to see what's possible. You may never know who's watching, but your impact reaches further than your words ever could. When you defy expectations, you expand the definition of what can be done and inspire others to believe they can do it too.